last time when Ketan bhai we were discussing the case laws compilation which I shared with the chamber, sir. In that we could discuss only 4-5 case laws, sir. If I tell and recapitulate, we discussed Supreme Court decision in Sudhir Kumar Singh's case, sir, on natural justice and this prejudice theory. Next, we discuss, Ketan bhai, this judgment of Honorable Supreme Court in case of Radha Krishna Industries, very important order of Justice Chandrachud on GST law, but having wide ramifications on every law, I believe. Then we discuss, sir, Sinfonia Trade Links, a very important order of Delhi High Court on Section 148 on investigation wing reopening, sir. And we discuss penny stock related judgments also of Delhi High Court in Krishna Devi, sir. Now, this was which took us 2 hours in the last session of my this confabulation, sir. Today, although Sharma ji has said that Mr. Goyal, you can design your confabulation as you feel comfortable, but he has requested me that I should give my humble thoughts on this very important judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of NRA Iron 412 ITR 161
and subsequent judgments.
And definitely the follow-up of this judgment. And now this judgment has definitely given us, given the revenue at least some different perspective of 68, sir, Ketanji. And I see in my pleadings and experience at the tribunals and the courts, that department is using this judgment again in, I say in humble words, in carte blanche manner. Well, they use it like a blank check. And they cite it in Section 68, and that is with due respect and feedback. That NRA Iron is not a judgment which can be applied to all the situations. Like no shoe can fit all the sizes, and no clothes. So this is not a judgment which can not fit in all the fact situation, Sharma ji, of 68 like this. And this is my humble prefatory remark. Anyhow, there are a lot of things, Ketan bhai, which this judgment has compelled various people to ponder over and think over. If I have to be, if I will take this judgment first, and then the judgments which I have discussed this judgment, and then we will come to the other part of my deliberation which I left last time, sir. So, Ketan bhai, this judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of NRA Iron 412 ITR 161, I will request my audience to just sit in the time machine and go in the retrospective sense. And then you will find Section 68 has been a provision, sir, which has seen various highs, Ketanji, and various lows. Now, there was one end of the spectrum, sir, you will recall, where this judgment of Supreme Court in the case of Lovely Exports came. Now, in that judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, one of the assessee, you will recall, sir, was a private limited company also. I am just getting the citation of the Lovely Exports on my screen. This is 216 CTR 195. Now, this was the judgment, Ketan bhai, was of the bench of just Honorable late Justice Kapadia Sahab. Now, when he was there on this bench, you will recall, and my viewers will recall, sir, there the Supreme Court says in Section 68 cannot be applied to tax the company for the money which is in the nature of share capital. And action has to be taken, appropriate legal action has to be taken in the hands of the shareholder if department so calls for. Now, although it was an SLP dismissal, but this SLP dismissal, Ketan bhai, was with a speaking order. And it was a decision of the Supreme Court coordinate bench of, I believe, it was a 2-judge bench order, as I recall, my memory goes. Now, in this order, Supreme Court gave a speaking order. This was not an order like we see generally in SLP dismissal. It's an SLP dismiss in limine. It's not an SLP dismissed in limine, sir. The Honorable Supreme Court, you can find out on the screen, can the amount of share money be treated as undisclosed income under 68? There the Supreme Court says no, and they gave the reason, and they gave a direction. Where the direction should be revenue should target their efforts on shareholder, or they should only target the company concerned who is in the receipt of the share capital, sir. Now, you remember, sir, this judgment, when it came, Ketan bhai, this judgment hold the field for a number of years, I believe. You can vouch this is 319 ITR 5. Now we are in 434 ITR. So I believe by this only you can judge. This judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Lovely Exports, I believe hold the field for number of years. And you will recall, Ketan bhai, that this judgment of Supreme Court became the basis of discussion in various High Court decisions and various tribunal bench decisions. And courts applied this dictum of the Supreme Court. Yes, you cannot tax the company concerned, and you have to go behind the shareholder. And that is one important. And now, before this, there was one more history, sir. If I have to go back to the memory lane, and in the hindsight, if we have to check how this subject of Section 68 vis-a-vis share capital has evolved itself, Ketanji, then one can remind itself that there was one initial decision of the Delhi High Court in case of Stellar Investment, where SLP was dismissed by the Supreme Court, where High Court, Honorable Delhi High Court, Ketanji, virtually held that 68 share capital can never be income of the recipient concerned. This was the one of the first order, landmark order, milestone, Stellar Investment, Delhi High Court, and this came to be confirmed and the SLP dismissed by the Supreme Court. And both citations I have given. Delhi High Court citation is 192 ITR 87 and SLP dismissal citation is 251 ITR 263. Now, Ketanji, in this one can note the first milestone of this journey of 68 was Stellar Investment, where the Honorable Court said, you can't make addition of share capital in the hands of the company. You have to go definitely behind the shareholder. Now, this judgment, Ketan bhai, was rationalized or further somewhat, what you say, na? It was transposed by another judgment of the Delhi High Court full bench. It was also widely discussed, Sophia Finance, 205 ITR 98. It was a full bench order, Ketanji. In this decision, the bench of that time, Justice Kirpal was there, if I remember correctly, Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Mr. Kirpal. He came down, Ketan bhai, and said that if shareholder identity is established on facts and it is not in doubt that shareholders have invested in the share capital of the company, then share capital being capital receipt can never be assessed in the hands of the company being capital receipt. Now, two parameters were set by Delhi High Court in Sophia Finance. One, identity should be particularly clear and nature of the transaction should be share capital. Stellar Investment gave a, what do you say, na? Total prohibition, no addition of share capital in the hand of the company. Stellar Investment was slightly diluted, I will say with respect, by Delhi High Court in Sophia Finance, where the Honorable Lordship said, no, you have to be very clear about the identity of the shareholder, sir. And second, you have to be clear about this nature of the transaction. Then, sir, when first landmarks milestone was Stellar Investment Limited, second milestone was of the Sophia Finance Limited. After this, there was another Delhi High Court ruling, sir, which came in the case of Divine Leasing, 299 ITR 268. In this ruling, entire conundrum of the subject of share capital is discussed, sir, with reference to Sophia Finance, with reference to Stellar Investment and all the rulings which were available on that day. And there the court said, sir, it is very important remark to read out, that although assessee was asked to first establish primary details on the identity of the shareholders and receipt of the share capital by acceptable documentary evidence, still AO was under corresponding onus to repudiate and counter the assessee's case by detailed follow-up investigation and scrutiny, sense which adverse inference will not be tenable. Now, Delhi High Court in Divine Leasing very clearly said, sir, where the bench, I believe, was of Justice Vikramjit Singh Saab. In this order, the court said that when the assessee places all the primary details in its possession, then AO has to make the proper inquiry and counter what is the evidence placed by the assessee. That is, when one's primary onus is discharged by the assessee, then AO has to discharge its secondary onus so as to shift back the onus to the assessee. So Delhi High Court Divine Leasing, in my humble opinion, can be counted as third milestone, sir. In this judgment of Delhi High Court, there were interesting remarks of the court, which I will read. In our opinion, the court said it is for the parliament to introduce legislation if the duty presently resting on the department is thought to be onerous. We ought not to twist the language of a statute and to remove the burden of proof altogether from the department, even though it has necessary wherewithal to discharge it. the malice can also be arrested if unclaimed share application can be taken over by the sub-state, and or if assessee concerned is precluded from distributing dividends, bonus shares against such share subscription unless they are duly claimed by original subscribers within a prescribed period, perhaps not exceeding 3 years. This was the suggestion given by the Honorable High Court in the divine leasing case to the government, that yes, they have to be also careful in discharging their owners under 68. And secondly, if they so want, they can make appropriate legislation and changes in the law that share subscription which is unclaimed can be forfeited, or the rights of the shareholder can be freezed. Now, there the court suggested some, the suggestions to the legislature and the government and parliament. Sir. When Stellar came, it was first milestone. When Sophia Finance decision came, it was second milestone. When, sir, this Delhi High Court divine leasing decision came, according to my humble opinion, it is a third milestone. Now, when this Lovely Export decision came, now it was one of the decision in the divine leasing group only before the High Court, which traveled to Supreme Court. Now, Lovely Export is part of that batch of cases which Delhi High Court decided in divine leasing. And divine leasing citation I have already given, sir, 299 ITR 268. Now, when these decisions are traveled to Supreme Court, there the Supreme Court dismissed the SLP with a speaking order. And now it is the settled law, sir. If a Honorable Supreme Court decision disposes an SLP, specially petition, with some speaking observations, then that constitutes binding force under Article 141 of the Indian Constitution. This is a settled law, sir. Even Honorable Justice Chandrachud Saab, in the case of Maruti Suzuki, in income tax has reaffirmed, and various Supreme Court decision reaffirms this principle. If a Honorable Supreme Court disposes a specially petition with some speaking order, then it constitutes as it creates a binding force under Article 141 of the Indian Constitution. Now, Lovely Exports was not a mere SLP. I have already said, sir, by in a limine manner. It is a SLP dismissal with some kind of speaking observations, which I have read, and I am again reading. Can the amount of share money be regarded as undisclosed income of the assessee under 68 company? We find no merit in the specially petition for the simple reason that if share application money is received by the assessee company from alleged bogus shareholders whose names are given to the AO, then the department is free to proceed to reopen their individual assessments in accordance with law. Accordingly, the Honorable Supreme Court did not find any infirmity in the impugned judgment of Delhi High Court. And Delhi High Court judgment is, I have already told, sir. Now, this order of Honorable Apex Court in SLP dismissal by speaking order in case of private limited company hold the field for on the subject for a long period of time, sir. Now, I am to make Sharma ji two humble submission at this junction. One, that Honorable Supreme Court decision in case of Lovely Exports and the Honorable Supreme Court decision in the case of Stellar Investments, which hold the period, which held a fairly long period as far as the subject of Section 68 vis-a-vis share capital is concerned. When you will read the decision of NRA, we will read the decision of NRA, sir, line by line, you will find the Honorable Court somehow did not deliberate upon these two decisions, sir. Two important landmark developments, I will say, on 68 of share capital. One, in the case of Lovely Exports, there is a decision referred in the Delhi Supreme Court decision in NRA case of Delhi High Court decision of divine leasing. But somehow this portion of Supreme Court order, which I am highlighting on my screen, has not been taken forward in the has somehow been not brought to the knowledge of their lordships in the case of this NRA iron, sir. And that is equally true about Stellar Investment case also, sir, of the Supreme Court. So this is, I have remarked here, sir, with due respect, it is humbly submitted that both these long-standing decisions of Stellar Capital and Lovely Exports of Apex Court have remained unconsidered in the present case of NRA iron. Now, why, Sharma ji, why these two decisions might have been not taken on the consideration as they required as per principle of judicial committee? Because no representation was there to assist us Honorable Court from the side of the assessee. It is an ex parte order. It is just on the revenues appeal has been allowed in the Supreme Court, and it is Not it is not with the not after hearing the arguments of the side of the assessee, because somehow assessee could not represent his side to the Honorable Supreme Court. It became a subject matter of NRA 2 when assessee prayed for recall of this first NRA order of Supreme Court. That also dismissed by Supreme Court, sir, in that no recall will be made. Now I am on the first important junction, sir, that when Stellar investment decision came, Sophia Finance came, Lovely Exports came. This chain and this sequence of events has not been captured in the Honorable Supreme Court decision in case of NRA Iron, sir. So somewhere one can argue, in my humblest of opinion, that the decision of NRA is per incurium to Lovely Export Supreme Court order, sir. Now I proceed further, sir. There is another decision of the Honorable Supreme Court. One can note this is from the bench of Justice Gogoi Saab, GS Holmes 387 ITR 126, where the Honorable Supreme Court also said the same thing which Lovely Export said somewhere and Stellar Investment said, that amount received on issue of share capital including share premium are on capital account and cannot be considered as income. Remained seems is also not brought in the case of NRA Iron before the court. So one may explore the doctrine of per incurium to this decision in case of NRA Iron vis-a-vis Apex Court decisions in case of Stellar Capital, Lovely Exports, GS Homes. So I believe this is one important and very important, Sharmaji, angle which has to be taken forward in the discussion of NRA Iron. That yes, whether NRA Iron is it again, NRA Iron is a judgment of the Honorable two-judge bench of Justice U. Lalit Saab and Madam Indu Malhotra, her lordship, as she then was. So it is and Lovely Exports, etc., is also of two-judge bench, Honorable two-judge bench. So it is the policy, it is the principle of the law that a coordinate bench of the Supreme Court has to consider the prior available decisions. And if they are not considering it, then that one can argue the doctrine of per incurium. And per incurium is a doctrine which has been again analyzed by the Honorable Supreme Court in so many cases, sir. Per incurium means even in the cases of Justice Nariman Saab, that per incurium is an important doctrine, sir. If a decision is rendered, subsequent decision is rendered without taking into account the earlier decision, then one can humbly argue that it is a per incurium order. And accordingly, the precedential value of the case should be decided, sir. So this is on my humble opinion about this judgment. And now I come to this facts of this case in the NRA Iron, sir. The citation of the NRA Iron is 412 ITR 161. The facts of this case is this: the assessment year was 910. Assessee filed the return of income on 29 September 2009. It was again a case, Sharmaji, where reopening was made on 30th April 2012. Now, very interesting thing has happened, Sharmaji. Now, in this case of the Honorable Supreme Court, although Supreme Court has restored the addition and restored the order of the AO and addition made by the AO in the assessment order, but somehow I find in my humble reading that again it is a important point whether this decision is a closer to 148 aspect. No, there is no discussion on this Honorable Supreme Court decision on the validity of reopening action, sir. And you all are aware, sir, a decision is an authority for what it lays down. And there is a Supreme Court ruling in case of Sun Engineering, which we all have been reading from our student times, that a decision has to be treated as an authority for what it decides, not for what it not decides, sir. So in my humble opinion, one can take note of this point that section 148 issue, the validity of reopening issue, was not the subject matter of consideration before the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of NRA Iron 412 ITR 161. So the issue before the AO was whether the amount of 17 crore 60 lakh eligibly raised by the assessee respondent through share capital premium were genuine transactions or not. On the basis of, now these lines can be underlined, sir. On the basis of detailed inquiries conducted, the AO in the assessment held that assessee has failed to prove the existence of the identity of the investor companies and genuineness of the transactions. The AO held that the assessee has failed to discharge the owners by cogent evidence either of the creditworthiness of the so-called investor companies or genuineness of the transaction. The AO, this is very important line, the AO held that assessee has failed to discharge its owners by cogent evidence either of the creditworthiness of the so-called investor companies. Creditworthiness was one point and genuineness of transaction is second point. As a consequence, assessing officer made addition of 17 crore 60 lakh in the return income of the assessee. Commissioner appeal deleted the addition. Now, this is very important point also to be noted. the first appellate authority came in the favor of the SECI and deleted the addition made by the AO on the ground that respondent had filed number 1 confirmations, ITRs, acknowledgements, bank account to show that entire amount has been paid through banking channels and has discharged the initial owners. That was the case of the first appellate authority, CITP. Now the turn came of the before the appeal to the ITAT revenue filed an appeal to the Honorable Tribunal, ITAT Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, which also dismissed the appeal of the department and confirmed the order of the CIT appeal on the ground that assessee has discharged its primary owners under the law to establish the identity and creditworthiness of the investors, where the emphasis was led by the tribunal on the point when the investor companies has filed their returns and they are assessed. This is an important line. What weighed with the tribunal was that investor companies have filed their ITRs and they are assessed. So AO made the addition on the basis of inquiries, doubting the creditworthiness and genuineness. CIT appeal deleted the addition, saying that the assessee discharged its primary owners. Tribunal confirmed the order of the first appellate authority, saying that companies who invested in the assessee are filing their returns and are duly assessed. Now the now revenue filed the the appeal to the Honorable High Court under Section 260A to challenge the order of the tribunal and the CIT appeal. Assessee did not appear before the High Court, hence the matter proceeded ex parte, and High Court also dismissed the appeal of the department by order dated 26 February 2018 and affirmed the decision of the tribunal on the ground that issues raised before it were urged on facts and lower authorities have taken sufficient care to consider the relevant circumstances, hence no question of law arose. Sir, this is the another important takeaway from this case law discussion, that when the department filed the appeal in the NRA case to the High Court found that it does not give rise to substantial question of law, which is a jurisdictional mandate of Section 260A, and therefore the Lordships of Delhi High Court dismissed the appeal of the Income Tax Department. So there were three concurrent findings, sir. CIT appeal was in the favor of the taxpayer, Honorable ITAT was in the favor of the taxpayer, and the Honorable High Court. There are three concurrent findings. Now, these three concurrent findings have been disturbed by the Honorable Supreme Court in the judgment which we are discussing. And that too without hearing the side of the assessee. This is an important point to be noted. Sharma ji, am I with you? Sir, I am with you, sir. Ketan bhai?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, Sharma ji, I was on the point. Thank you, sir. I was on the point that one angle of discussing the NRA iron was that the background before NRA iron, in the case of Stellar Investment, in the case of this Lovely Exports and GS Homes, is not figuring out in the decision. Second important thing is, sir, from the factual journey of this order, is this that in the even when three authorities, High Court, Honorable, and ITAT and CIT appeal was in the favor of the SSC, still the Supreme Court reversed those three concurrent findings, and which were primarily on facts. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And this is a very important thing to be discussed further, whether this reversal by the Supreme Court is as per law or not. In my humble opinion, it is not correct, because as a student of law, I submit with due respect to the Lordships of Supreme Court that when concurrent finding of fact is there by the CIT appeal and ITAT, and ITAT is a final fact finding authority, sir, then the question arises, Sharma ji, whether this reversal by the Supreme Court without coming down to this point, yes, there was a substantial question of law and High Court was supposed to admit the appeal of the revenue, and they should have set it aside the case to the High Court for if the Honorable Supreme Court felt it is a case where substantial question of law arose and it is a perverse order of the ITAT or CIT appeal. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah.
So, in my humble opinion, this reversal on the merits by the Supreme Court in restoration of the order, there is one step which we have jumped somehow. That is, whether the High Court, when it dismissed the appeal of the department under 260A, because ultimately before Supreme Court, High Court order was agitated, na? So, if High Court order was right, then can the Supreme Court order be right, sir? Both cannot be right. Either High Court is right or Supreme Court is right. So, what I try to humbly submit is, sir, that when the Honorable Delhi High Court, in the case of NRA Iron, dismissed the Income Tax Department appeal that no question of law arose, substantial question of law precisely, under 260A, which is a jurisdictional factor, sir, you know. Now, can the Supreme Court reverse the decision of the High Court and and consequently the order of the ITAT and CIT appeal without saying that yes, High Court was supposed to admit this appeal? Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah.
There is nothing in the order I can find for myself. Sorry. Rather, the Supreme Court somehow became a in my humblest submission, I'm saying with due respect again to the Lord, my lords, that they became a fact-finding authority in some sense. How could the Supreme Court go into this question, sir, whether SECI is able to establish the identity, creditworthiness, and genuineness when it is a question of fact, sir? And question of fact stops Sharmaji at the High Court level. Oh, sorry, tribunal level. And there are decisions of the Supreme Court in so many cases that if there is no substantial question of law arise, High Court can never entertain into the fact finding. Am I there?
Yeah.
So one angle to analyze the Supreme Court decision was that the prior background is not discussed properly, adequately. And second is, sir, in my humble opinion, respectful opinion, that this is this reversal by the Supreme Court without coming to the point. See, there are Supreme Court decisions, I will say like this, there have been Supreme Court decision by Justice Abhay Mohan Sapre's bench. If High Court has not has wrongly dismissed the appeal without finding substantial question of law, then they have set aside the matter to the High Court. You recall, Sharmaji, those orders of Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Now, here they have not done this. Here, what Supreme Court does is, Supreme Court restores the order of the AO and somehow overturns the order of the CIT appeal, ITAT, and High Court. To my humble understanding, sir, this is not absolutely correct, as the law of section 100 of Civil Procedure Code says that when there is no question of law or substantial question of law, then High Court, if does not interfere, then Supreme Court also is an extension of that thing. Now, sir, Supreme Court cannot say even without substantial question of law, High Court should have reversed the finding of the tribunal. Then it will open up the Pandora box. I remind Sharmaji one decision, but one can note Purushottam Khatri's order. I remind myself, and this can help my viewer to note my point more better. It's a Nariman, Honorable Justice Nariman sir's bench order and latest order, sir. This is Purushottam Khatri's case, sir. And where I will just tell this order, sir. In this case also, Sharmaji, what was happening is the department, High Court reversed the order of the tribunal, and tribunal was in favor of SSC, and it was a question of fact, 68 issue, Sharmaji. And Supreme Court says, no, High Court did a wrong thing in reversal. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah.
So, NRA Iron, I believe, is somewhere incongruous to the scheme of section 260A of the Income Tax Act, which does not allow Honorable High Court to see that all questions of fact are open before it, sir. I'm just telling the citation of Purushottam Khatri. Bear with me for a minute, sir.
Sir, just one question.
Yes, sir. Yes, Ketan bhai.
With regard to the review of this particular NRA order, was this issue about lack of jurisdiction to decide a factual matter was taken up?
No, brother. Sorry. No. You have a very gentle question, very learned question, brother. But the issue, you are right, and I also was what you say, troubling myself with this issue. I find, brother, that recall was limitedly on this issue. We were stopped by reasonable cause to not to appear before the Honorable Supreme Court in the first wala phase of the Supreme this NRA. Now, Justice Malhotra, Indu Malhotra said, no, your explanation, why not you come, and your CA was served under notice. All these things was analyzed in the NRA too. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
So, I also could not fathom, sir, why not in the second in the review petition the assessee came to the Honorable Supreme Court, Ashok bhai, that this order of the Supreme Court somewhere is incongruous to the lovely export decision of Justice Kapadia and other decision, and secondly about this aspect of very crucial aspect of 260A jurisdiction.
Exactly, and more than that, then there are two judgments of the Supreme Court of the similar bench, same size bench.
Sir,
even if they wanted to disagree, they should have given to a larger bench.
Right, and that is what I was coming, brother. You have taken my point. Well, see, you are absolutely thinking, absolutely, in my humble opinion, I humbly concur with your sense of thinking, Ashok bhai. That, see, if firstly they don't discuss those judgments which hold the period for so many years, and their decision has never been doubted by anyone, and those decisions, Ashokji, still stand today, and they are glaring us. I'm sorry, even Stellar Investment case, even this what you say, this Lovely Exports case, and this what you say, GS Homes case, all these decisions, Ashok bhai, are standing today on one side, and NRA Iron, without doubting as per law their validity, and as you rightly said, the matter could have been referred to the larger quorum. But that is not some, because I believe, Mehta Sahab, this has happened because, more probably because I find this reason is that maybe assessee is not given that chance to represent himself, or he's not being represented as per law.
But sir, the Supreme Court of India should always have known these judgments. We cannot assume that the Supreme Court, even in an ex parte order, would have a situation where they don't know their own orders.
See, Mehta Sahab, this argument, with due respect, see, when a judgment, brother, is decided, as you know, that it is a ratio or it is a precedent for what is contained in that. We can't say that it is a precedent for everything. So therefore, the doctrine of per incurium has developed itself in such a big avatar. Now, the question is this, first point is this, this Supreme Court decision is not even discussed in that sense. Yes, there is a Supreme Court order where the Supreme Court Justice Kapadia's bench, his lordship, late Justice Kapadia's bench said that this private limited company share capital cannot be added, Mehta Sahab. And yes. And third point, you will agree with me, sir, where the recall application, see, what they said in this order of this assessment year, you are noting, na, sir, Mehta Sahab, this assessment year is 9 times. Yes. Now, the amendment in the Income Tax Act, sir, prospective amendment came by Finance Act 2012, that is 2012, that is assessment year 13-14.
Yes.
Now, if you put all these things into one thread, at one side, Lovely Export is there, which says that the law, as per law, as prevalent at that time, department cannot go behind the company, has to go behind the concerned shareholder. Then there is a amendment in the law, Mehta Sahab, which took place on the prospective effect. Section 68 proviso, which we will discuss today, came from prospective effect, sir. That is assessment year 13-14, which is now a settled law. Yes. Now, by this, now you can't neither that aspect of prospective amendment in section 68 is discussed in the order. Not Lovely Export is discussed, sir. No. And what I was saying is again not discussed about this 260A and Purushottam Khatri citation, sir, I was giving, you can note. This is 419 ITR 475. 419 ITR 475. It's a short order, but a very crisp order, Sharmaji, and brings my point directly to the table. Justice Nariman, while allowing the appeal of the assessee in the case of Supreme Court, this Purushottam Khatri, said that High Court very wrong, absolutely went wrong in reversal of the tribunal order. Again, 68 issue was there, Mehta Sahab. And they say it's a question of fact, sir. So I am of the opinion, sir, that if I am to distinguish, Mehta Sahab, so I will, as a student of law, you to say humbly, I will put three things. Number one, these judgments of Lovely Export, etc. Second thing, question of law was not there. And so without discussing about question of law, that how it is reversed. And third thing is this, that can section 68 be a subject matter of the Supreme Court when the concurrent findings of fact were there in the favor of the assessee, sir. And concurrent finding of fact is a very important argument, sir. Anyhow, sir, we travel further. Now, after noting these facts, and it is not like this, Mehta Sahab, as you rightly said, that these facts are not noted. These facts are noted in the order of the Supreme Court. That yes, AO said this, CITPL said this, Tribunal said this, High Court said this. This chronology is absolutely impeccably and very honestly, or what you say, very naturally noted in the order of the my lord, sir. Now, what the issue they frame for themselves is, the issue which arises for determination is whether the assessee has discharged the primary owners to establish the genuineness of the transaction required under 68. The issue for which arises, again they say the same thing, the issue which arises for consideration is that in a case where share capital and share premium is credited in the books of the assessee, the onus of proof is on the assessee to establish by cogent and reliable evidence, the identity of the companies, creditworthiness of the investors, genuineness of the transaction to the satisfaction of the AO. Now, somewhere Mehta Sahab, you will agree, when this issue was framed, I believe the problem started here. When the issue was framed by my lords in the Supreme Court decision, there this background should have come into play. Number one, there this 68 factual concurrent finding issue should have come into play, and there whether Supreme Court can reverse a concurrent finding of fact in the appeal by the department when three authorities have otherwise hold, is something which somewhere goes, I believe, without discussion. Am I with you, Mehta Sahab?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So now what they start discussing is, you see, after considering the order, see, you were asking a very important question also, Mehta Sahab, whether Supreme Court in an ex parte decision when writing such a detailed order will be aware about all these things or not. See, sir, I read in some other judgment as an academic hunger I was reading on this issue, if a decree or a judgment is decided in an ex parte manner and one party is only decided and another party is not decided, other party is not heard. This is a fact now. If for the reasons attributable to the assessee does not represent. But this is fact, Mehta Sahab, that assessee is not represented at the Supreme Court in this case. So can this become a binding force? This is again a larger question which I leave at it. This is again can be a food for thought. That if a decree is passed, hearing one party only, can it become what you say binding precedent for all the cases, especially when that very assessee is Mehta Sahab is not heard?
Sir, the problem is that it's not that the assessee was not given an opportunity. It is a mistake of the assessee in this case. So, so a judgment which is an ex parte, though being an ex parte without hearing the other party, would be an order which can be binding. But the only problem is that the Supreme Court should have actually considered the judgments at least, because they are supposed to be learned.
Yes.
So,
or at least department should have been fair enough to bring this before my lords. Sir, yes, my lords have earlier hold this view, and now this view has to be reconciled, or what you say, moderated, or you streamlined before any other view is taken.
Yes. It should have done that, and even without that, so the Supreme Court, without going into what are the decisions on this particular aspect, starts looking at factual aspects at the level of Supreme Court, is something which is preponderance. So
right. And at least it, brother, interdicts 260A mandate. Now, otherwise 260A is militated. Now, then you are asking High Court to enter into the no entry zone of question of fact.
Yes.
Sir, this is anyhow. We progress further. I believe my 2-3 humble points. I'm not at all. I am a very small person. I have no audacity and impunity, Mehta Sahab, to say Supreme Court is wrong. But yes, as a student of law with humility at my command, and as a student of law, I am submitting that yes, this decision will definitely require a reconsideration at some or the other end to reconcile these conflicting views on the point as on date, sir.
Yes, agreed.
So what they say, brother, now on the principles which they call out, my lords, in the order, the principles which emerge where sums of money are credited as share capital are, the assessee is under a legal obligation to prove the genuineness of the transaction, yes, identity of the creditors and credit worthiness of the investors. Now you see, here, Mehta Sahab, again the problem comes. The assessee in the case of share capital, the my lord says, under a legal obligation at that time, assessment year 910, according to them, is under obligation to prove the genuineness, identity, and credit worthiness. Who should have financial capacity? Now, please underline this word. Who should have financial capacity to make the investment in question to the satisfaction of the AO so as to discharge the primary owners. I will take a pause. So they have said that no, not only by identifying the shareholder, the owners of the assessee in case of share capital is discharged, but he is to go further. He has to also identify, he has to also show the creditworthiness, and who should have financial capacity. Now, this is a troubling word somewhere to me, sir. Now, this is introducing, Sharma ji, it is giving some kind of retrospective impact to the provision of Section 68 proviso, Mehta ji. Now, if this word is underlined, who should have the financial capacity to make the investment in question? Now, this is department is using like anything, sir. Are you noting, sir? Who
Yes,
should
sir.
have the financial capacity to make the investment in question? Now, what is financial capacity? I'm asking a question to myself. What is financial capacity, sir? Now, they say that the assessee should have the financial capacity to invest. I just keep a open question. Kindly, I will just complete it when I discuss this case law fully. Financial capacity. What is the meaning of financial capacity? Second point. My lord says, sir, the assessing officer is duty bound to investigate the credit worthiness of the creditor, verify the identity of the subscribers, and ascertain whether transaction is genuine or these are named lenders or bogus entries of named lenders. Now they say in second point, when one's primary onus is discharged by the assessee, as said in point number 1, then the onus will come to the AO, who will be required to make the investigation further. Third point, my lord say, if inquiries and investigations reveal that the identity of the creditors to be dubious or doubtful or lack creditworthiness, then the genuineness of transaction would not be established. In such a case, now this is very important line, in such a case, assessee would not have discharged the primary onus. So in the third point, the Honorable Supreme Court says that if the inquiry suggests that identity is dubious, doubtful, or creditworthiness is not there, or genuineness of transaction is not established, then adverse inference under 68 can be drawn at the end of the assessing officer in the case of 68. After these three general principles, Mehta Sahab, which the Honorable Supreme Court has noted in this NRA Iron case, the Supreme Court has said one important thing which I would like to underline, sir. After repeatedly noting that in the present case, some of the investor companies were non-existent as per field inquiry conducted by the AO, which as per noting made by the court revealed, this is very important line, in several cases, the investor companies were found to be non-existent. Please underline this word, sir. And the owners to establish the identity of the companies are not discharged by the assessor. Then at the other place, what they say, clearly the owners to establish the credit worthiness of the investor companies was not discharged. The entire transaction seemed bogus and lacked credibility. I find myself confused in reading these two sentences, sir. At one place, it is observed by the Honorable Court that assessee has not established its owner's co-identity of the companies, whereas at the other place, the my lords have said it is assessee company who has failed to identify the identity of the investor companies, which two findings seem to be on different tangents. So it is a finding of fact in this case that the companies from whom the money came to the assessee as share capital were found to be non-existent. This is a very important finding of this case, sir. On discharge of owners under section 68, it seems that significant findings of the court are contained in para 13. Para 13 of the Honorable Supreme Court holds that, sir, the lower appellate authorities appear to have ignored the detailed findings of the AO from the field inquiry and the investigations carried out by his office. So Supreme Court is highlighting that AO made lot of field inquiries and investigations which have gone unnoticed at the end of the first appellate authority and at the end of the tribunal and high court. The authority below have erroneously held that merely because the respondent company has filed all the evidences, the owners to discharge. So this, I believe, Mehta Sahab, 2 points, these 2 points, that company, there were a lot of field inquiries were conducted by the assessing officer in the assessment, and which inquiries revealed that various investor companies are non-existent on the addresses. That is one of the major reason of the Supreme Court to reverse the orders of the CITP, ITT and High Court. Now, at the closure, some observations are made by the Honorable Court. The practice of conversion of unaccounted money through the clock of share capital must be subjected to careful scrutiny. This would be particularly so in the case of private placement of shares, where a higher onus is required to be placed on the assessee since the information is within the personal knowledge of assessee. Sorry, sir. The assessee is under a legal obligation to prove the receipt of the share capital to the satisfaction of the AO, failure of which would justify addition of 60 amount of the addition of the amount to the income of the assessee. Which observation of the court seems in the nature of obiter dicta only to my mind, sir. Finally, the court, Honorable Court, held on the facts of the present case, the assessee company failed to discharge the owners under 68. The assessing officer was justified in adding back the amount to the income of the assessee. So revenue's appeal was allowed, reversing 3 concurrent orders of the CITP, ITT and High Court. Now, what are the important decisions, sir, which have been noted by the Supreme Court? I have also noted, Mehta Sahab, all these orders are taken note of in the order of Supreme Court. One is Delhi High Court decision in Lovely Exports, not Supreme Court order. Then these are the list of those case laws which have been considered by the Honorable Supreme Court in their decision, sir. And this definitely does not discusses the decision of Lovely Export Supreme Court. This does not discusses the decision of Stellar Investment and the decision of GS Homes, sir. I again, just before I go further, sir, come back to the point which I just was deliberating. Yes, sir, this principles which the Supreme Court framed and where they refer the word financial capacity in some part of the judgment, my learned viewers can note, sir, the Honorable Supreme Court has also highlighted that the companies from whom the money has come, they are showing low income, meager income. And they have also given the premium for which there is no proper justification. So on these 2 points, that whether a person who is filing a low return income is the only ground, can be the only ground to make the addition under 68, sir. Whether the person from whom the money has come, that is the shareholder, is not having commensurate revenue inside income or return income, can that be the basis to doubt the credit worthiness of the share subscriber? And secondly, there is no justification in this period for the share premium. Can that become the basis for addition under 68, sir? So again, Mehtaji, these 3 points I take up firstly before going further. What is the connotation of word financial capacity? What is the implication of return income being low? And third, this point of share premium justification, sir. As far as financial capacity criteria is concerned, sir, in my humble opinion, since the amendment made by Finance Act 2012 in section 68 by assessment from assessment year 13-14 is prospective only. So that amendment cannot be applied in a retrospective manner at all, sir. So again, one has to be careful when he makes pleadings on this judgment of Supreme Court that it cannot say, it cannot put that additional onus which is put by the amendment of Finance Act 2012. Then it cannot be put for the year 1910, which has been somehow again done in oblivion to the amendment made in section 68 by the Finance Act 2012, sir. And next point I was saying, sir, in income tax law section 68, if one can open, the word used, Mehta Sahib, is nature and source of the credit. The word used is source. Now source, sir, as my all the learned viewers are aware, source can be revenue source can be, Mehta Sahib, capital. So it is not necessary that the money which has come to the company has to be from the revenue source of the shareholder. It can be from the capital source of the shareholder, meaning thereby a person can take the loan and then can also subscribe to the share capital is the law, which I understand is the correct position, sir. So it is not like this that in section 68 for properly answering to the description of source, it should be revenue source only. And there are a lot of judgments now which has clarified this issue, sir, with reference to NRA IRN. That source does not mean only the revenue source. Are you noting my point, sir? It can be capital source also, sir. Yes. So, and this has become such a big confusion, Mehta Sahab. The department always wants that loss hua return mein kam income hua, to kehte hain that this person is not credit worthy, so addition should be made under 68 and adverse inference should be drawn. I am sorry, sir, this is not the law. Source can be both source, sir. And that is why while interpreting the word financial capacity and while interpreting the word source in section 68, one has to be very careful. And Supreme Court cannot be viewed as to hold that a person, supposingly a company is there, A, who took share capital and who subscribed to B's share capital, sir, and B took share capital and also subscribed to C. So it is not prohibited somewhere, Mehta Sahib. Yes, so if it is not prohibited in the law as such, and otherwise the transaction is not legally flawed, then one cannot complain. Revenue cannot say, Kini Sahib, we should only look to the source of the income in the return. We should not look to the source of the funds in the balance sheet and in the capital account. So I believe this is one area of interpretation which department is using against the taxpayer, sir. And in my humble opinion, Mehta Sahib, this is totally a wrong interpretation, sir, of the department, sir.
Sir, if I disturb you for a second,
please, sir.
We are very happy to detail such a detailed explanation, but then we have to discuss other judgment also. So as I told you, you can discuss for hours this judgment. I was told by this by
So,
some.
you are now my censor board. You are
Yes.
saying and I'm saying sorry. You
No.
are saying Gulzar, don't be slow in your strike rate. We are
No,
not
no.
in a test match. We are
No.
in a T20.
Right. So now, subsequent judgment you may consider.
Sir,
Yeah.
yes,
So because so many you have got lot to share, sir, and
Yeah.
we would like
Abhi,
to love to that. Do that.
it is a subject. Section 68 is, some people might know, and some sir will also know
I know.
that,
I know,
sir,
sir.
section 68 is my bread and butter, na. So
Sir.
Mehta sir, what happens is that some people start saying me कि आपके घर के नाम section 68 कर देना चाहिए. तो वो ऐसा भी हो जाता है. Anyhow, चलिए, I appreciate what you are saying, sir.
Yeah,
Coming,
yes, sir,
come
yes.
here. I humbly bow down, sir. Just a minute. Let me
And-
come to the.
Sir,
Sorry.
one
Ashok,
pointer.
I think if it is be brief, you can
Yeah,
ask.
Yeah,
Please.
just a brief. That for this capacity, one can refer to that Mayawati judgment, where
Right.
they say the balance sheet has to be looked at.
Absolutely right, Mehta sahab. This is absolutely, you are absolutely wrong on the point. Ki Mayawati judgment of Justice Sikri's order, when that was given, and in that time people sold their assets and then the money was given. You remember, sir, the facts, the classical facts.
Yes.
But see, I'm not criticizing, sir. I'm a small man, but I see that passed the judicial muster. Now here it is not passing the judicial muster, sir. There is some luck factor also, I believe. Anyhow, I will come to the command of my friend Mr. Sharma ji. Ki Gulzar slightly be just now come to the other portion and post-mortem analysis of this judgment of this Honorable Supreme Court. See, Sharma ji,
Yes, sir.
at least I believe, when I just was to enter into the seminar, I made a very fresh list of the case laws in my mind. One can note, some may be there, some are not there. You can note which are not there. I have noted down. There is a judgment of, I will start with a negative order first. There is a judgment of Madras High Court, sir, which has been latestly reported in the ITRs also. Madras High Court Honorable, where the department appeal is allowed. And again, same thing has been done which NRA Iron did in the case of SRM systems. SRM. S for Switzerland, R for Rajasthan, M for Madras. SRM systems, 17th February 2021, sir. Now, in this decision, Mehta Sahab, the point which the Madras High Court my lords pinpointed was financial capacity only, which is troubling you and me. So they reversed the order of the tribunal, which was in favor of the taxpayer, and came in the favor of the department. Again, I believe it's a issue to be raised that whether the substantial quotient of law criteria was met or not. So Madras High Court is the decision in favor of revenue, where NRA iron was used in para 10 and para 11 of the decision can be referred. Para 10 and para 11 of Madras High Court SRM systems, where the lordships reversed the order of the tribunal and restored the addition of 60. I guardedly, Sharma ji, took this decision because my gurus and my teachers say me that one has to read the adverse case law first.
Yes,
so this is NRA iron decision where Madras High Court applies it, reverses ITT order, restores the addition, and this is one of the latest order of February 2021. Now, and in that para 10 and para 11, financial capacity point has weighed with my lords. Now, what are the other decisions where the relief has been given by the courts to the taxpayers and where section 68 has been, NRA iron has been deliberated, sir? Now, one decision of Bombay High Court, Sharma ji, I always have my favorite High Court. One of these Bombay High Court, my lords. This decision of AMI Industries is a wonderful order, sir, of the bench of Justice Bhuyan Saab, Ujjal Bhuyan, 424 ITR 219. And what he says is, and it's bang on the point. He's on the bang on the point that before amendment made by Finance Act 2012, with prospective effect from AY 1314, SECI is not supposed to prove the source of shareholder matters. This is a very important decision of Bombay High Court. It directly comes on the bang on the point. It NRA iron, the my lords distinguishes it. The AO has made independent and detailed inquiry, including survey of the investor companies. The fact, this is Bombay High Court order discussing NRA iron. The field report revealed in that case of NRA iron that shareholders are either not existent or lacking credit worthiness. It is in these circumstances the Honorable Supreme Court held onus of the SECI is not discharged. So I believe, Mehta Sahab, at least Bombay High Court for the Bombay jurisdiction in the case of AMI Industries has very rightly distinguished this order, sir. And I believe there is one more order of Aditya Budla's company's case. So that this judgment and this Aditya Birla's case, I believe the law of Bombay in the jurisdiction of Bombay High Court is very clear that NRA iron cannot be used like a carte blanche. It has to be used with a sense of that facts are paramateria and facts are identical and similar. And Sharma ji, when and it is told to us that when you rely upon a decision, it is not safe to treat a decision as a statute. You have to be very careful with the factual parity. So Bombay High Court in AMI Industries 424 ITR 219 is a decision which is on the other spectrum. Madras High Court was other SRM systems. Bombay High Court is on the other spectrum. There is a second decision of Bombay High Court, Sharma ji, which Bombay High Court, Honorable Bombay High Court has taken note of NRA iron in case of an entry provider, Alak Securities 424 ITR 658, and said that this in entry operator case, when you are to assess the commission of the entry provider, you can't rely upon NRA iron like that. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So Bombay High Court, two at least reported decisions I have given. One is this AMI Industries 424 ITR 219, and second is Alak Securities 425 ITR 658, sir. And third is the now decision which I am discussing is the Karnataka High Court in the case of Kumar Nirman Nivesh Limited 424 5 ITR 486. Again, Karnataka High Court says NRA iron cannot be applied like a blank check, sir. So these three decisions of Bombay High Court, two decisions Bombay High Court and one decision Karnataka High Court, has distinguished the area of operation of the NRA iron, sir, has restricted it, has said that it cannot be applied in a wider manner or a wider horizon. I have given this list of case laws, Sharma ji. These are all prior to NRA iron, but they say that prior to amendment of Section 68, that is by Finance Act 2012, the assessee company cannot be asked to prove the source of the shareholder because that amendment is prospective. There are the decisions of your Bombay High Court, series of decisions.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And you can also note one thing, sir. Even Bombay High Court has also said, see, share premium amendment in Section 56 also came from Finance Act 2012, sir. 56 to 7B came from Finance Act 2012, Sharma ji.
Yeah.
So let me put it my proposition like this. If a company is there who is in the receipt of share capital in the assessment year 11, 12, 12, 13, or let us say 9, 10, 10, 11, then the onus of the company is narrower. He is to prove number one, what are the shareholders? What is the mode of the money coming to the assessee, banking mode or cash mode? And what are the confirmations and assessment income tax particulars, etc. of the shareholder? I believe once you give this much, sir, then the owner shifts to the assessing officer in the law prior to AY 1340. And then AO has to make the inquiries, sir. AO cannot say that since already investigation has been done by the investigation wing, so I am not supposed to make any independent inquiry and I will draw the adverse inference just on the basis of investigation wing recommendation. I am sorry. Are you getting my point?
Yes,
even
sir.
As per NRA iron, if we go by its rational reading and objective reading and unbiased reading, it clearly says, my lords have said clearly that after when you give particulars to the AO, then he has to inquire it. Now, Sharma ji, lot of ITAT decisions have come. I will just come to those decisions where the courts have distinguished NRA iron without any inquiry. Supposingly in a case, no notice under 133(6) is issued, no notice under 131 is issued, and adverse inference is drawn straightway by the AO without making any inquiry, independent meaningful inquiry. So, can adverse inference be drawn under 68 without independent inquiry? Answer is no. And can NRA come to the rescue of the revenue where AO remains seated with folded hands? That is the question which is glaring me. Answer is, I believe, in the NRA itself, sir. That NRA was a case where AO made detailed inquiries as noted by my lords in the order, time and again. But if a case is there, Sharma ji, where there are no inquiries done at all, AO has remained seated with the folded hands, just after when the assessee gave the paper, straightway adverse inference is drawn without any 133 subsection 6 inquiry, 131 inquiry. Then I believe NRA iron will rather help the assessee, not the department. That is my humble reading. And second point, sir, if the inquiry has been made, Sharma ji, and inquiry has resulted positive confirmation. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
These are the two striking distinguishing features. If no inquiry is made or inquiry is made, but positive confirmation have come. In those two cases, NRA iron cannot be viewed as an adverse law. I believe you have noted it.
Yes, sir.
Now, I will come. I was just coming to this. Just give me 1 minute. I am just sharing my another. There are two notes on NRA iron which I made. So just give me 1 minute. I am coming to my another note. Is it there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, please note all those decisions which you were asking, Sharma ji. I have 7 or 8 decisions. Kindly, I will be just hurrying up. One decision of Delhi ITAT where NRA iron is taken note of and distinguished is Brahmaputra Finleys Private Limited. It is very clearly said in this decision that aspect of return income of share applicant is not all and all to decide on credit worthiness, but most important factor, even if return income is bigger, should be net worth of the applicants. Are you noting this line, net worth of the applicants?
Yes, sir.
We generally advise our clients to make a net worth chart so as to establish the credit worthiness criteria in the law prior to AY 1314 especially, sir. So next decision, Sharma ji, after Brahmaputra is in this case, one more thing was noted, Sharma ji. Another aspect of each shareholder positively confirming factum of share application money in inquiry and revenue having accepted in case of shareholder companies is very important line. See, this is important fact. I have already told that if shareholders replies and their positive confirmation comes on the board, then it is a very important thing, sir. Next decision of Delhi Bench of ITT is Commitment Financial Services. Again, a case where all the positive confirmation and replies came in the inquiry made by the IO. Therefore, the tribunal, honorable tribunal, distinguished the Supreme Court decision in NRA facts, NRA iron. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
Commitment financial case. Third is this is again a very important decision of Ahmedabad bench of the bench presided by Honorable Shri Rajpal Yadav Sahab, DJ Stock Broking Limited. In this case, department very heavily relied upon NRA iron, sir. But tribunal very clearly said mere low income in ITR vis-a-vis investment is jettisoned by the tribunal to hold that credit worthiness is not restricted to income returned by the applicant, which is very important finding of Ahmedabad bench, sir. So in this case, 68 was deleted. Now another decision, fourth decision, Sharma ji, is of Jaipur bench in Skyways Industrial. Please note this is also a very important order. In this case, the tribunal noted that mere general reference to modus operandi from statement of any person without any linkage to particular facts of the case and where existence of the investor company is fully demonstrated by its scrutiny and regular assessments. Please note, if you have shareholder who have given you money, their scrutiny assessment, Sharma ji, has already been done for the year. And in that department has accepted their investment in your company. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
So there are cases where you will find some investor companies might have been assessed under 143.3. So these are the cases. Anyhow, now coming to your own decisions of Bombay ITT, please note, Binni Builders, this is a Bombay ITT order, sir. Now, again, I believe all these decisions says the same thing, sir. If department has not brought cogent material AO on the record to demolish the case of the assessee and just remain seated with folded hands, 68 adverse inference cannot be upheld, sir. And this is again a very, very important order, Sharma ji, Bangalore bench, Khyati Steel Limited. They have said, this is very important, I'm reading, that no cash is deposited in the bank of the investor companies and no corroborative material is there that money deposited in the account of investor companies emerged from the coffers of the assessee company, and no doubt is casted on genuineness of share capital, mere doubt on share premium valuation. See, all these variety of case laws from Delhi bench, Bombay bench, Ahmedabad bench, Bangalore bench, what they say, Sharma ji, I have summarized here. For now, I'm reading quickly. Mere low return income cannot decide the credit worthiness aspect, sir. If net worth is there to support share investment, am I with you, sir?
Yes, sir.
So net worth versus income. Second, meaningful inquiry at the end of the IO in the assessment proceeding is sine qua non to overrule the surfeit evidence or defense set up by the assessee, which cannot be substituted with light-hearted and perfunctory rejection of the explanation and detailed documentary evidence placed by the assessee on mere hyperbole. You know, hyperbole means कि वो ज़्यादा जो बोलता है बात को, hyperbole of alleged accommodation entry. That inquiry is must. Sharmaji, inquiry means meaningful inquiry. Third, general allegation of modus operandi of entry is not suffice unless something is brought on record by the AO to overrule the case of the assessor. Fourth, regular assessment of the shareholder, sir, at one hand by the department accepting their existence and business would not allow at the other hand department to say the companies are shell companies or paper companies. Are you noting it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Duty to enforce that. Sorry, yes, sir.
Yeah. Post amendment, any of these judgments, sir? Post amendment?
Sir, just bear with me. I am coming. I have two case laws in my itinerary to discuss, especially. Just allow me.
Okay.
I am just covering the subject prior to AY 13-14 first. I will come to after. Just give me a few minutes.
Yes.
Duty to enforce the attendance of shareholder is with the department as per CPC. Back material gathered by the assessing officer has to be confronted to the AO and proper cross examination. And this I have always said this thing. Last time also I have said, Sharmaji, that the material which is collected at the back of the assessee has to be confronted and tested on cross examination. And for period prior to AY 13-14, justification of share premium cannot be asked by the revenue. Now note this order of Chain House, Sharmaji. This is a landmark order. This was a MP High Court decision, Chain House, Honorable Madhya Pradesh High Court, against which SLP has been dismissed. And lot of Bombay ITT orders are relying upon Chain House case. What is Chain House case, Sharmaji? Chain House case was prior to AY 13-14, where huge share premium was taken by the company, and assessee was not able to give exact justification of the share premium, the company who took the share premium. Department ran adverse inference under 68. Honorable Madhya Pradesh High Court said, nothing under 68 to specifically ask the assessee to say how it valued the share premium. And this decision, Sharmaji, Chain House wala decision is upheld by Supreme Court in SLP dismissal. So prior to AY 13-14, under 68, assessee cannot be asked separately to justify the share premium. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
And last point, even source of source cannot be gone into the context of share capital for period prior to AY 13-14. Sir, there are 3 or 4 decisions, Sharmaji, which have come in last 2 months from the ITAT on NRA IRN. Kindly note, they are not there in my write-up. First is the decision of, I am taking the decision of Pune bench of ITAT in Mahalakshmi TMT Private Limited. Mahalakshmi TMT Private Limited. Mahalakshmi TMT Private Limited, sir. Pune bench of ITT, Mahalakshmi TMT Private Limited, 19th April 2021. The date of the order of Pune ITAT is 19th April 2021. Para 12 can be seen, sir. Para 12 discusses NRA threadbare of this Pune ITAT order, sir, authored by Shri Wasim Ahmed Saab. Now, in this order, Sharmaji, the tribunal has taken a lot of pains to dissect and to make a very detailed analysis of NRA IRN, sir. As what I have said is almost telling with this decision, sir. Second notable worthy decision is, Sharmaji, is Delhi bench of ITT, 2 decisions are there, where NRA IRN is again analyzed in a very detailed manner. One is in the case of Balaji Infra Solutions Private Limited. Balaji Infra Solutions Private Limited. That is the decision of Delhi bench of ITAT in case of Balaji Infra Solutions Private Limited, 13th April 2021. 13th April 2021. In this case, paragraph number 6.16 and paragraph number 6.17. Para 6.16, Sharmaji, and para 6.17. And again, this decision of Delhi bench of ITT, Sharmaji, says the same thing which we have discussed. Balaji Infra Solutions Private Limited. The date of the order is 13th April 2021. The third decision and last decision of this discussion is, in this chain, is Delhi bench of ITAT, and to which the bench of Honorable Shri Amit Shukla Sahab and Prashant Maharishi Sahab. The Delhi bench of ITAT in case of Arizona Ventures Private Limited. Arizona Ventures Private Limited, 26th March 2021. 26th March 2021. Delhi bench of ITT. Paragraph number 41 of the order. Para 41. So, Sharmaji, all these 3 decisions, Pune bench and 2 Delhi bench orders, which I have just humbly submitted, sir, are saying the same thing which I have said in my 8 points here. Are you noting this, sir?
Yes, sir.
So, prior to AY 1314, the owners of the assessee company who is in the receipt of the share capital is very restricted, sir. And the corresponding owners of the department, that is we call as secondary owners, to make inquiries and to shift back the owners, to throw back the owners is very critical, sir. I have seen a lot of cases, Sharmaji, where the secondary owners is not discharged at all. Either the revenue does not make any inquiry, or whatever inquiry they does make, that does not implicate adversely on the assessee. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
Concept of making independent inquiry under 68 is endorsed from section 131 of the Income Tax Act, where CPC powers are given to the AO, Civil Procedure Code. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yeah.
So I believe this is one part of the discussion which you asked me today of NRA. And one can note, sir, that the commentary of Arvind Datar Saab, which is a leading commentary now of this Palkiwala, which is updated by Datar Saab, page number in the volume 1 of commentary of Mr. Datar Saab, 1585 and 1586, sir. Page number 1585 and 1586. Sharmaji, what a beautiful commentary on 68 and NRA and other aspects. I beseech my viewers to please read it, sir. Are you with me, sir? Should I repeat
Yes,
the page?
sir.
Should I repeat the page numbers?
No, we got it, sir. 1585, 1586.
And 1587 and 1588 also, sorry.
Okay.
Now, you were asking, now I will take this book in my hand and come to your point, Sharmaji. Mr. Goel, what will happen after amendment? I am reading from the commentary, page number 1588 of this commentary of this Datar Saab. It says, sir, in 2012, a proviso was inserted in 68 to deal with these cases, stipulating that assessee's explanation shall be deemed to be unsatisfactory unless the person in whose name the share application money, share capital, share premium is credited also offers a satisfactory explanation on the nature and source of funds. Now, what is the commentary of Datar Saab on this? Kindly note, Sharmaji. And I believe as chamber has filed one petition in Bombay High Court, na Mehta Saab, one area can be this also. This proviso, according to Datar Saab, one of the leading country's lawyer is, he says, this proviso casts an unreasonable burden on the assessee. Please note this line, Sharmaji. I really liked it. Because I am a assessee man, na, sir. So what it says, this proviso casts an unreasonable burden on the assessee when there are credits from a person and such person is someone and he is not able to explain the source of the income. In the addition is made in the income of the assessee and not to the income of the person who is not satisfactorily able to explain the source of these funds. So according to Mr. Datar in this book, Sharmaji, this proviso is unreasonable.
Okay.
Are you getting why he says so? I believe the idea of Mr. Datar is that if Kapil Goel gives some money to a company and that private limited company or closely held company is called upon to explain who is Kapil Goel and where from Kapil Goel has got the money, I being a shareholder, then Kapil Goel is not able to explain the generation of funds in his hands, then adverse inference should be drawn in hands of Kapil Goel under 69 or adverse inference should be drawn in the hands of the company under 68. This is the moot point, Sharmaji.
Yeah.
What this proviso is doing? This proviso is saying that the addition will be made in the hand of the company.
Company, yeah.
For want of explanation of the funds from the shareholder.
Yeah.
So this is somewhere commented in the commentary by the Honorable Datar Saab to be unreasonable. Now you will say, Goel Saab, come to the point. Now I will come to my another point, sir. Just a minute. What I was to discuss is this case laws which have come from the tribunal now, sir. A lot of decisions have come. At least 2 decisions are very important to be discussed, Sharmaji. And they are now, I'm coming to my compilation, which I discussed last time, sir. Am I with you, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, in this book, in this chain of decisions, sir, you can note this order, sir. Item number 12. Wearit Global Limited. Page 47 to 49. Now, these are the few case laws, Sharmaji, which have started coming on the cases of AY 13, 14 and other years. Are you noting my point, which you were asking?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And this is very interesting to discuss, sir. I'm sorry, I am going very slow, but I have to discuss it like this anyhow. this is the case of section 68 for AY 1314, Sharma ji, and 1415 is, you see, the AY was before Mehta Sahab. In this case, the case before the tribunal was AY 1415. This is the bench of Honorable Jagtap Sahab and Barki Sahab. Now they have adumbrated and elucidated this proviso in very interesting language. Kindly bear with me. Now I am reading. We note that though Parliament has inserted Finance Act by Finance Act this the proviso to section 68, Sharma ji, we must bear in mind there is no change or amendment in the substantive provision of 68. Are you noting this?
Yeah, yeah.
The tribunal says that even if you have added proviso, according to tribunal, there is no substantive change in the law. How? They say wherein if any money is found by the AO to have been credited in the books of the assessee in the relevant year, then when called upon by the AO to assessee, explain the nature and source, and pursuant to which if assessee fails to explain to the satisfaction the nature and source of the credit, the AO may treat the income as chargeable to tax. In other words, if the assessee is able to explain the nature and source of the credit to the satisfaction of the AO cannot use this proviso, Sharma ji, to charge the credit appearing in the books as income of the assessee under law. It is settled position of law. Now please note this. This is a second important point of the judgment. Tribunal has captured this word satisfaction in proviso to 68. आप 68 का proviso देखें. You see section 68 proviso what it says. It says, I am coming again. Such explanation in the opinion of the AO shall be deemed to be not satisfactory. Now there is some satisfaction, tribunal says, which is required to be formed in the 68 proviso. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was on this point. So where did that satisfaction point go, sir? It is settled position of law that satisfaction, I am reading from here, sir. It is settled position of law that satisfaction contemplated in 68 of the Act is that of a reasonable prudent person and not that of unreasonable person. Now this is a very important line, Sharma ji. Even after amendment in 68 proviso, AO cannot behave unreasonably to put something unreasonable on the assessee, which Datar Sahab also said. So when the AO calls upon the assessee to explain the nature and source of the credit in the books of the assessee, then initial burden is on the assessee to bring on record the nature and source of the credit. And once an assessee is able to discharge the initial onus, Sharma ji, onus again shifts to the AO to disprove the material adduced by the assessee. Now let us take a practical case, Sharma ji. Supposingly a company is there in AY 1314 or let us say AY 1819, taking some share capital, and assessee gives all the identity, creditworthiness and genuineness of shareholder. Now the decision says that before the department wants to apply proviso of 68, they have to make further inquiries again. 68 proviso nowhere militates on this law that secondary owners of AO will not have to be discharged by proper inquiries and independent inquiries. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yes, sir.
And see what is a landmark judgment it is. And if the AO is not able to disprove and rebut the evidence, are you with me?
Yeah.
If the AO is not able to rebut the evidence brought on record by the assessee to prove the nature of the entry, then section 68 cannot be used by the AO to charge the credit appearing in the books of the assessee as income for taxation. The position of law we note remains the same. Please note this line. Third line. The position of law tribunal says we note remains the same even after insertion of Finance Act 2012, wherein additional requirement is put. So, Mehta Sahab, am I with you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I believe this is one of the most landmark decision after the amendment, I believe, sir. It has somewhere now, I believe, again put the cart back. Cart before the horse. What do you say? Hai, Mehta Sahab?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But this judgment, and I believe it rightly balanced between the side of the assessee and the side of the revenue. That yes, there is some additional onus on the assessee under 68 amendment. But even if that amendment has come, then AO is again under the duty of the law, Sharma ji, to take the matter forward once the assessee comes with the primary details in its possession. And you please note that in other words, from AY 1314 onwards, in the event if an assessee company when called upon by the AO to explain the nature of the credit, claims that credit is share application money, then additional requirement of law as per tribunal list kicks in, and share subscriber should be able to show the source from which it was able to invest in the assessee company, and if the source of share application money is shown to the AO, And if he is satisfied with the explanation, then deeming provisions will not apply. Again, you note, Sharma ji, it's a deeming provision. Proviso
Yeah.
268 is a deeming provision.
Yeah.
I believe in this judgment of Viarit Global, when the tribunal said the onus is discharged, this para 38 should also be noted, Sharma ji. Tribunal says that since the company from whom the money came, the share subscriber, they are able to show from their, you note these lines, that they have enough net worth. Are you noting, Mehta ji?
Yes, sir.
And share subscribers have also filed the source from which they are able to subscribe to the share of the company. That is, bank statement is filed and audited balance sheet is filed. So, Mehta ji, they are the Honorable Tribunal in this order after 68 amendment has very categorically said that if you give net worth chart and if you give the bank statement and audited balance sheet of the shareholder, then you are out of proviso clutches. Am I with you, sir?
Yeah.
Am I rightly reading it or not, sir?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, we note that source of investment, that is source of the shareholder, is satisfied because it is clearly discernible from the bank statement and confirmation filed in the paper book. So, Sharma ji, this is a landmark order of Viarit Global. We have to yet see how many other benches of the tribunal follow this order, sir. But it's a coordinate bench order. We can safely rely on it. And I also humbly cite this order of the bench of Honorable Delhi bench of ITAT. The author is Honorable Shukla Saab. Sharma ji, this is again an order, second order in my knowledge, where the Finance Act 2012 amendment in 68 is discussed. And this is paragraph 59 of this order of Angel Cement Private Limited, order dated 18th March 2021. Now they say, Mehta Saab, in this judgment, the tribunal says section 68 has no applicability where there is no involvement of any unaccounted or undisclosed funds of the assessee which have been introduced in the books of the assessee by way of cash credit. It does not apply to cash credits which appear merely on account of. Now please note this line. It does not apply to cash credits which appear merely on account of rotation or movement of accounted or disclosed funds between group entities. This is a very sharp line, Sharma ji.
Yeah.
That after 68 amendment by proviso, even it will not cover those cases where movement of fund is there between the group entities. And the tribunal says for section 68 to apply, the receipt should essentially be of income nature. So I believe the amendment in section 68 by Finance Act 2012, Sharma ji, was with the purpose to overcome the decision of Lovely Export, one part, and to see the people who use share capital as a garb to introduce their own money into the form of share capital. Then 68 amendment was brought into the law. Sharma ji, are you noting my point?
Yeah,
and this is memorandum explaining Finance Bill 2012 also. That it was introduced with the object to carve out the pernicious practice of converting of unaccounted money through masquerade of investments in share capital. Now, Sharma ji, I am of the humble opinion, Mehta Saab, if any case section 68 proviso has to be applied, revenue has to first discharge this burden of legislative intent. Meaning thereby, if there is no trace of any unaccounted money being introduced, Sharma ji, then 68 proviso cannot be applied, sir. Am I with you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, the prior decision, the Viarit Global, what is the citation?
सर मेहता साहब, अशोक भाई, ये डिसीजन दोनों अनरिपोर्टेड है सर. ये मेरे को आपका जो मैंने आपको दिया है ना ये चार्ट, इसमें से आप निकाल लीजिए, आईटीटी का वेबसाइट पे जाकर मिल जाएगा.
अच्छा अच्छा, ओके ओके.
और नहीं मिले तो आप मुझे जरूर बोलिए, मेरे को कोई तकलीफ नहीं होगा. जैसे शर्मा जी को पता है, मेरे को बड़ा सुख महसूस होगा, मैं आपको भेज दूंगा, मेरे पास रेडी अवेलेबल है सब कुछ.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It is a click of mouse. See what I was debating, sir. I will just come to a very important point next. Sir Mehta Sahab, there are a lot of amendments in the Income Tax Act and which chamber have also challenged in some petition. I believe humbly, and I believe Datar Sahab is representing Mehta Sahab that case.
Yes, sir.
So you remember, sir, all these amendments which have come in 2012 and otherwise for the purpose of particular purpose. Now there is a question going on in various debates and seminars whether applying those amendments whether revenue has to see the purpose and then apply the law, or without seeing the purpose also they can apply the law, Sharma ji. And I want to discuss, Mehta sahab, one very landmark order of Bombay ITT. What a order it is, sir. I am sorry, I am yet to see what an order it is written, sir. This is 11 number item, Impact Retail Tech Limited, sir. Are you noting, Sharma ji, this order?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. 11 number. Yeah.
Now I come to this order. Mehta sahab, you also pay attention to this.
Yes.
This is very interesting.
Yes, sir.
And this is the bench of Honorable, I believe, Mahavir Singh Saab, Honorable VP Saab. See, this is the order, I believe. Sir, what were the facts in this case, Mehta Saab? This is a case of not 68. This is a case of 5627B share premium. You know, na, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, the assessing officer noticed that assessee has received financial tranche of advances on 30th March 2013 and assessee has treated the whole advances as liability in the balance sheet. Assessing officer noted that assessee has issued share capital. Sorry, I got forwarded myself. Sorry. Assessee has got the share capital in the subsequent year at the rate of issued share capital. The advance was converted, Mehta Sahab, to share capital.
Okay.
In the subsequent assessment year at the rate of 3,000 per share with a premium of 299. Are you noting these facts? This is a very interesting fact. The assessing officer invoked 5627B since advance received by the assessee was in excess of fair market value of the share as on final date of receipt of advances, that is 30th March 2013. The AO rejected the event of actual issue of share in the subsequent assessment year. Now there were 2 points, Mehta Sahab. First point, ki whether this 5627B will apply in the year in which fund came to the assessee in form of advance, or it will apply in the year in which shares are actually allotted. The question before the assessed tribunal says whether advances against share capital is a liability or it is a receipt towards share capital. The next question will be whether legislature actually intended to tax the investment in the sick or capital eroded company. This is a marvelous issue, sir. At this stage, we notice that net worth of the company is nil or negative until the final tranche of the receipt of advance came. Because of this situation, the AO invoked section 5627B and he not only brought to tax the share premium, he also brought to tax face value of the share capital. Mehta sahab, ho sakta hai aisa? See how they behave sometimes. Sorry, I don't want to stray. Anyhow, in our view, this is a bizarre situation. See the frustration of the bench. This is a bizarre situation in which the company with the eroded capital can never receive any investment from its holding company nor plan to receive any investment. Tribunal says, sir, I will summarize, Mehta Sahab, what is the crux of this order. 2 things, Mehta Sahab, the tribunal says in this landmark order. 1, they say until the shares are allotted, sir, 5627B cannot apply just because you have received a money, share application money also. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yes.
And secondly, they say unless the purpose which was behind the introduction of this law is present in the particular case, the section cannot be applied. We noticed that provision was introduced by the lawmaker to curb the practice and generation of unaccounted money. If it is not there in the case, then that revenue cannot apply this law. Although, Mehta Sahab, I rarely see department following this sage and astute wisdom. What do you have to say, sir?
No, I agree with you.
They believe when the law is, they say literal interpretation should go, plain language should go, and in that there is nothing written about anti-abuse and anti-avoidance, some kind of thing. So they say ki sahab nahi, abhi to we have to go by plain language. But I'm sorry, tribunal says, and the tribunal very rightly says, sir, I believe, that the purpose behind the law has to be seen, sir, in this judgment, what they say. And purpose behind the law is to curb the menace of the things, sir. Sharma ji, am I there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
yeah, yes, sir.
And they also highlight this word. You note, Sharma ji, this words, what they say. The CIT appeal has stressed the interpretation of the words in the above definition receives in any previous year. 56 somewhere uses this phrase, na, sir, receives.
Yeah.
Now they say, based on the above interpretation, CIT appeal says assessee received advance, so share capital he added. So he added the advance money, which later on converted to share capital. Now tribunal criticizes this. It's a very important line. We notice that CIT appeal has interpreted 56 to 7B without any finding on generation and circulation of black money in assess's case. Mehta ji, am I there?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
further, he interpreted the words receipt of consideration for issue of shares. We do not agree with the above interpretation. The receipt for consideration of issue of shares to mean the proceeds for exchange of ownership of the value. The term consideration means, Sharma ji, something in return, quid pro quo. The receipt is exchanged with the ownership in the company. In the given case, the holding company passed the resolution to finance this company through TSML, through the assessee, and funds intended for TSML, which is a step down subsidiary, and the funds were remitted to the assessee as an advance towards share capital. So two ratios, Sharma ji. One ratio, 56 to 7B cannot be applied merely on the receipt of the money. It can be applied when shares are actually allotted.
Allotted, yeah.
And second thing, they say before section 56 subsection 2 clause 7B is applied, revenue has to find out whether the ingredients of that intent of the lawmaker is present in the case or not. And if it is not qualifying that legislative intent and legislative purpose and legislative mischief, then 56 to 7B cannot be applied, sir. Am I with you, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir.
So I believe this is these are the two landmark orders, Viareed Global and this, what you say. And I'm sorry, I should be fair to the other side. There are some decisions, Sharma ji, on 56 to 7B of this point, which are against the assessee also. But this is the latest order where all the other decisions on the subject, especially legislative intent and text of the language, has been very beautifully noted by the tribunal, sir. Mehta sahab, are you with me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I believe if one goes by the Viareed Global and this Impact Realtek, it becomes a combo pack, power pack. Both the decisions are power packed orders, sir. Both the decisions. Am I with you, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, now I come to the another decision which Sharma ji wanted me to take up the left out portion of my deliberation. And this is again from Bombay IIT, Sharma ji, and this is helping lot of assessees in the search assessment cases. And the decision is from the bench of the Honorable President. The bench was of the President. Presiding officer in this case was Honorable IIT President Bhatt sahab. And Sharma ji, this case is ARC Pharmaceuticals, page number 40 to 44. Mehta sahab, in this case, entire law of approval on section 5153D is discussed. And the quality of the approval is also criticized also and commented by the bench, that if an approval is given to a search assessment order by an approving authority, that is Joint Commissioner and Range Head, and he merely writes the line, Mehta ji, that he is approving the 6 years and 7 years collectively, then tribunal says that approval will not pass the muster of the law. And I believe, in my humble experience, 90% of the approvals which have been given in the past to under 153D, sir, are of this nature. You see the approval on the screen, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I there on this approval? This I have shown the screen, sir, the forwarding letter of the AO solicits the approval with this letter, Sharma ji, this letter. And he says that, Sahab, I am submitting the draft assessment orders. It is submitted that all the seized materials, etc., have been considered by me, and you kindly grant your approval. What additional commissioner says in the approval granting, sir? Now, one undertaking count kind of a thing method is given. It is submitted that all seized materials and data on the electronic devices have been considered while framing the assessment order. Your kind approval is solicited. What approving authority does is very fantastic to note, sir. You see, he says approval is accorded to the assessment. Am I with you, sir? Approval is accorded under 153D to all the assessments by one line. Is it an approval? So, Sharma ji, this decision of Bombay IIT in ARC Pharmaceuticals very clearly says that if you are challenging a 153A assessment, my advice will be this, Mehta sahab, we must take from record under RTI or otherwise the forwarding letter of the AO to the additional commissioner and the approving letter of the additional commissioner, Mehta ji. And we may take an additional ground before the ITAT that approval is without application of mind. Am I with you, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir.
And I am of the opinion, sir, In 90% of the cases, Mehta Sahab, what they have done in the search assessments is they have combined lot many assessees and they have combined lot many years in the single approval letter, which tribunal says is not in accordance with law. Sharma ji, this decision is based on another one of the decision has been taken forward by in the case of Bombay ITAT, that is Sanjay Duggal's order. Please note this order name also, Sharma ji, Sanjay Duggal's. It's a more than 250-page order represented by Kapil Goyal, sir.
Okay.
And in this case, what happened, sir? When we argued this case, Sharma ji, I was not knowing section 153D, Mehta Sahab uses the word each. And in this order of Sanjay Duggal, the tribunal bench has clearly held in paragraph 12 that approval under 153D has to be individual year specific. That is, year specific application of mind is to be there on the part of the approving authority under 153D. And if it is not there, then whole approval is wrong. That is, the word each is used. Sharma ji, the word each is interpreted by the Delhi bench of ITAT in Sanjay Duggal case. The date of the order is 19th January 2021. And this order of Sanjay Duggal is relied in the order of ARC Pharmaceutical by Bombay bench of ITAT. I can show you also. Sir, I am there on this paragraph. You are noting this? Very recently, the coordinate bench in Sanjay Duggal. So, I am telling the three decisions, sir. One must take note of. One is in the case of Sanjay Duggal on 153D. Second is in the case of ARC Pharmaceutical. Sharma ji, one decision has come in June only. That should also be noted. That is the bench of two vice presidents, Honorable Vice President N.K. Saini Saab and Honorable Mahavir Singh Saab. This is a Chandigarh bench order comprising of the bench of two Honorable VPs of the tribunal. And the name of the order is Indar International. Indar International, 7 June 2021. Now, this decision of the tribunal of Chandigarh bench of two Honorable VP bench in the case of Indar International of 7 June 2021 is again relying upon Sanjay Duggal's case and this ARC Pharmaceutical case, sir. And Sharma ji, tribunal has very clearly said in Indar International also that if approval under 153D is mechanical, it is based on undertaking of the AO. That AO says that I have checked everything, approving authority, you please give the approval, then this approval is the most abdicated approval. I hope all the three decisions are noted by you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Indar International, Sanjay Duggal, ARC Pharmaceutical.
Yes, sir.
On section 153D.
Yeah.
And for bringing this issue into the tribunal or the appellate authority, I humbly advise you must take the copies of the approval letters from the AO and the forwarding letter, sir. And the order sheet also. I hope you have noted it, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Sir, now this is the case of the Ahmedabad bench of ITAT in Himalayan Darshan Developers. Sharma ji, this issue in the search assessment has been a long debated issue. What is the meaning of the word incriminating material? Now, you know, Sharma ji, in lot of cases when proceedings of the assessment are not abated, they are completed assessments. Then law says addition in 153C and 153A has to be based on incriminating material. What is incriminating material is decided by Honorable Ahmedabad bench in this case of Himalayan Developers. Incriminating material, sorry.
Is there in the list, sir?
Yes, it is item number 13.
13, okay, please.
And this is again one of the very useful orders to the people, to the friends who have search assessments cases, where department has counted something as incriminating, which is otherwise not incriminating. Are you getting my point, sir? What is incriminating, sir? Incriminating, sir, is something when found in the search which is absolutely adverse or what you say, contrary to my book results and my regular accounts. Are you getting my point, sir?
Yeah.
So Ahmedabad bench of ITAT in the case of this, what I was telling, sir, in the case of Himalayan Darshan Developers, page number 49 to 51, various shades of incriminating material is discussed, Sharma ji. See, I just wanted to quote one judge point. Supposingly department makes a search with a material prior in their knowledge that assessee has done some out of book transaction, which was known to the department prior to the search. Let us say foreign bank account. And there is nothing found in the search. And now in 153A assessment, department wants to use this pre-existing information. Can they use it? Can it be counted as incriminating material you found in the search? Answer is no, sir. I hope it is clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what is incriminating material? Supposingly, there are various types of material found when a department makes a search, Sharmaji. All material cannot be put in the basket of incriminating material. What can be put in the basket of incriminating material is that material which gives adverse view of the assessee's financial affairs and business affairs. I hope this is clear. And this is what Ahmedabad bench of ITAT has written, sir. I want to tell Sharmaji before I say take leave from you. There are two decisions of the Bombay bench and one Chennai bench. One must read. I believe they are wonderful decisions, Sharmaji, on the mobile data being called as books. Some search took place in a Bombay case. Assessee Ekta Housing is the name of the case. Ekta Housing. You note the name of the judgment. Ekta Housing. The name of the case is Ekta Housing Private Limited. 24th May 2021. This I sent you, Sharmaji. This decision.
Yeah. Okay.
Ekta Housing Private Limited. Bombay
Yes,
bench
sir.
of ITD, 24th May 2021. What are the facts of this case, Sharmaji? There was a lot of mobile data which was found from the assessee people, company people, and it was called as books of accounts under section 2 clause 12A, and additions were made under 68. Are you noting my point?
Yeah.
Mobile data was called as some kind of books under section 2 clause 12A of the Income Tax Act. Read with section 68, additions were made. Honorable Bombay bench of ITT, analyzing 360-degree view, has said that this mobile data cannot be called as books of accounts, and no addition can be made under 68, treating the mobile data as books. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah. Yeah.
And same is the order of Chennai bench of ITAT, which has come in June 2021, sir, which you also can note. Chennai bench of ITAT in case of GSNR rice mills. GSNR rice mills. GSNR rice mills. Rice industries, sorry. GSNR rice industries in June 2021. There was a CPU found, sir, in which lot of incriminating material was there, and the department you called it as books of accounts under income tax law and applied 68 to it. Sharmaji, again Chennai bench analyzed entire law whether this CPU can be called as books and 68 addition can be made or not. Answer was given no. So why I am telling all this, Sharmaji, that now lot of WhatsApp messages, mobile data, CPU data, computer data are being found by the search team, and they indiscriminately make addition under 68. That is wrong. That is Bombay ITT order and that is Chennai ITT order. Both the orders I have told. Bombay ITT order's name was Ekta Housing. Chennai ITT order is GSNR rice mill, sir. So I discussed 3-4 important points of search assessments. One, approval under 153 capital D. Second, what is the fine connotation of the word incriminating material? Third, this what are the how you can call the search based material as books of accounts for an edition under 68, sir. So Sharmaji, now we can take up the queries, and since my throat is slightly rough, I'm sorry, I'm feeling some pain in my throat also, sir.
Oh, so take care.
And if you want me, I can just tell one decision of the Bombay High Court which one may read, and Goa bench order, sir. It may help lot of our friends. This is the decision in my compilation number, point number 17, sir.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
17 number. This is Peter West. Peter West. I will just come to this order, page number 52.
Yeah.
Now this order, Sharmaji, it's in batch matters argued by Honorable the senior advocate Padiwala Saab. The facts of this case for Sharmaji were twofold. Assessee won before the CIT appeal on merits, and department came in tribunal, Sharmaji, before the tribunal. In tribunal, assessee never filed any cross objection, Sharmaji. Filed cross objection with delay, sorry. Filed cross objection with delay. Are you noting?
Yeah.
And also filed Rule 27 application. Now, tribunal rejected the condonation application of the CO, cross objection, and also dismissed the Rule 27 application. The reason which was given by the tribunal was twofold. Number one, tribunal says the condonation reason of the CO is not properly explained by the petitioner assessee. And Rule 27 petition was rejected. Sharmaji, very important. Please note, this is a landmark order. Rule 27 application, which was filed by the assessee respondent to support the order of the CIT appeal on jurisdictional ground, was rejected by the tribunal, saying that ki, sahab, you did not take this issue before the CIT appeal. First time in the Rule 27 application, assessee took this plea of validity of 153C proceedings. Kindly now note the opening paragraph. After these appeals were heard for some time, we were satisfied that these appeals involve an additional substantial question of law. Sharma ji, am I with you, sir?
Yeah.
We framed the additional substantial question of law and adjourned the matter to enable the learned counsel for the parties to address us on such additional question of law, which is like this. Please note, whether in the facts and in the circumstances of the case, it was open to the assessee to have supported the order of the Commissioner Appeals based on the ground that jurisdictional parameters under Section 153C are not fulfilled, even without necessity of filing CO. And Sharma ji, another ground was whether on the facts and circumstances of the case in law, the appellate tribunal was correct in rejecting the CO filed by the appellant solely on the ground of delay, when admittedly learned appellate tribunal in the impugned order has come to the conclusion that issues raised in cross objection are legal issues. Sir, both these question of law, Sharma ji, are answered in the favor of the assessee, and ITT order is reversed on these questions. Are you noting my point? By Bombay High Court, Goa bench.
Yes, sir.
The bench of Justice Sonak and Dama Sheshadri Naidu. I hope you have noted this point.
Yeah, yes, sir.
This is a landmark order saying to this extent, sir, first time this order has come, that even if you do not take any legal issue before the CIT appeal, like 153C jurisdictional issue, then you can, as a respondent, support the order of the CIT appeal in department. Department goes to appeal in Rule 27 application, Sharma ji. This is the ratio.
Yeah.
And I will just show the concluding part so that my viewers can be with me. In this case, sir, see, in this case, the assessee merely wanted to support the order of the CIT appeal, which was entirely in their favor. The assessee wished to raise an issue that was at least prima facie going to the root of the jurisdiction to initiate proceeding under 153C. Having regard to provisions of Rule 27 above, the ITT, in our opinion, should have permitted the taxpayer who were respondent to support the order of this appeal on this ground, even without necessity of filing CO, sir. Okay. In the present, this is a landmark order, Sharma ji.
Yeah.
Where the Honorable Bombay High Court, Goa bench, has, I believe, somehow, see, this is important line. Such an issue was not raised before CIT appeal. Are you underlining this point? Para 38.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Where जहां पर assessee ने CIT appeal के सामने 153C का issue नहीं लिया था 153C का, तो भी मेहता साहब बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट बोलता है कि ट्राइब्यूनल के सामने आप जाते हैं, तो आप डिपार्टमेंट जाता है, तो आप रूल 27 में एज ए रिस्पोंडेंट यू कैन टेक दिस इशू. And they also say what are the good guidelines of condonation, sir. They say if there is a genuine reason for delay and it is explained by the assessee, then the tribunal should condone the delay. This decision can help, Sharma ji, various people in delay condonation point. I will just tell where the assessee, where the Honorable High Court has concluded this issue. Even otherwise, in context of substantial question of law number 4, we think that sufficient cause was made out by the appellants to seek condonation of 248 delays in filing cross objections. The condonation was accompanied by an affidavit. Please note this line, affidavit we have to file. And there was no necessity of filing an affidavit of chartered accountant to the effect that they had tendered some incorrect advice. Sharma ji, what was the reason for condonation pleaded by the assessee? That some wrong advice is given. And tribunal was asking कि साहब legal advisor को या CA साहब को भी affidavit देना चाहिए. And Bombay High Court says उसका जरूरत नहीं है. आपने नोट कर लिया पॉइंट, सर?
Yeah, yes.
I believe this is a landmark order of Goa bench, sir. Rule 27 issue scope is enlarged, I believe, somewhere. That even if CIT appeal के सामने आपने नहीं लिया होता है issue, तो भी Rule 27 में ले सकते हैं आप ट्राइब्यूनल के सामने. और दूसरा condonation of delay में they have relied upon the Supreme Court decision, which I will request my viewers. That Supreme Court has held that as long as the conduct of the appellant does not on the whole warrant to castigate him as an irresponsible litigant, delay can be condoned. If the assessee is not a irresponsible litigant, then delay can be condoned. So Sharma ji, I believe, I have tried to do justice to the...
Sir, international tractor, next number 18.
Okay.
Yeah,
ye dil mange more.
Mange more, yes, sir.
I will just take it, sir. I will.
Yeah.
I would love to take it. See,
Yeah.
this is the decision, sir, where the Honorable Delhi High Court has reversed the order of the ITAT, Dinesh Bhai, and the High Court has said the tribunal should not remand the matters in general when all the facts are before the tribunal. Are you noting my point, sir?
Yeah.
This is a very important judgment of Delhi High Court by the bench of Justice Rajiv Sikdar in the case of International Tractor dated 7th April 2021, where Sharmaji, the tribunal, even if with the, having seized off the entire material before it, remanded the matter to the AU. Tribunal's High Court reversed the order of the tribunal, question of law answered in the favor of the assessee, saying that remand should be done in exceptional cases, rare cases, not in light-hearted manner, sir.
Yeah.
And CIT appeal has the wide power to admit additional evidence under Rule 46A is also considered by Honorable Lordships of Delhi High Court in International Tractors case. That if a additional evidence is admitted under Rule 46A, which power is wider power to the CIT appeal, then ITAT should not lightly interfere in that. That is the judgment of the High Court, sir.
Okay.
This is a very, very good order again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worth reading again and again, sir. This
Yeah,
decision has a practical utility, Sharmaji.
That's what I said.
That because tribunal sometimes remands the matter and department prays for easy remand, easy remand should not be made, sir. And second, if CIT appeal, Dinesh Bhai admits an additional evidence and additional evidence is admitted by first appellate authority in its wider powers, then tribunal should not criticize it or interfere in that ordinarily. That is what dear Lordships of Delhi High Court Justice Sikdar has said in this order.
Right.
So, sir, with this, I thank my friends, sir, all
Yes,
of
sir.
you, sir, and I give my regards and humble regards to all the participants and gratitude also, sir. Thank you all.
Ashok, you can take the question. I think only one or two questions are there.
Yes, sir. There's only one question. You have stated that one of the reasons for non-applicability of decision of NRA Iron and Steel is that question of fact is decided upon instead of remitting the case back to High Court. But
Right.
a wrong inference of facts would also amount to substantial question of law. So isn't the Honorable Supreme Court not correct in deciding the issue subject to your elaboration?
Ashok bhai, इसमें क्या बात है कि the issue point is what we are discussing is that under section 260 capital A, you know, there is a jurisdictional requirement for the High Court to interfere. That is substantial question of law. Now this is the same requirement in section 100 of CPC. You can note in briefs 100 of CPC. Now if section 100 of CPC is seen, sir, there are a lot of judgments, Mehta Sahab, which Supreme Court has given. That see, merely because another view is possible, it cannot be called as substantial question of law. Na, Mehta Sahab? And that is why I have cited you the Nariman Saab's bench taking a diametrically opposite view, sir, in Purushottam Khatri's.
Yes, sir.
Somebody should, I as a student of law, see, it is our academic understanding. You keep Purushottam Khatri in one hand and you keep NRA Iron in another hand. I am not able to reconcile them, I am humbly saying.
Right.
That is how I keep it at it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, Sharma.
Any other question, friends?
No questions are there in the question.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have any question? You are having so many questions.
No,
You
my
can-
questions are answered.
No, Ashok bhai, I am so kind. And see, Ashok bhai, you can ask anything, we'll discuss anything if you have any.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You
Yeah.
can discuss, Ashok bhai, anything, anything relating to anything income tax, what we have discussed. If I knew, I know I can add my value, sir.
No,
Now in
sir.
faceless assessment, sir, they are sending the matter back.
Hmm.
In so many cases, you have also covered in your presentation. That means second inning is given.
Sharmaji, I want to deliberate upon one important thing which I was saying in the beginning of my seminar.
Yeah.
That now what is happening, Mehta Sahab, chamber should raise this issue with the department, I believe, humbly. That is my suggestion also, sir. That what is this happening in these 148 cases is, sir, that instead of first giving proper reasons as per GK and Drive Shaft with the approval to the taxpayer, they are doing some kind of, I don't know, arm twisting with the procedure of GK and Drive Shaft. What is this? That they are now in the hurry or haste. They are issuing 143 to notice, and along with that, they are giving some extract of the reasons. It is absolutely in against the spirit of the law. How can 143 subsection 2 notice can be issued in 148 unless my reasons are given properly, my objections are taken, and my objections are disposed of properly? Are you noting my point, sir? I have been told in Maharashtra also and various parts of the country, Sharmaji, what department is doing in phase this 148, that now they, when you have filed the return, they are giving you 143.2, and in that 143.2 itself, they are giving you some reasons, some part of the reasons.
Only a paragraph of what is the gist of the reasons.
But Mehtaji, this is totally, I believe, bizarre, sir. I'm totally preposterous according to my understanding, sir. Preposterous and farcical, sir. Sorry. See, they have given a Tata bye-bye to GK and Drive Shaft in some sense, sorry. When they will decide my objection and take my objection, sir, and they will comply with GK and Drive Shaft, when they have already made up the mind to make the assessment by issuing 143.2, is not their 143.2 premature? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
But the moot point is this, Mehtaji, can in 148, 143.2 be issued prior to GK and Drive Shaft cycle being exhausted?
Yeah, should not be.
should not be.
But
Yeah.
Sharmaji, this is becoming now its fashion and style. Sorry, I don't know which book says so. Sorry.
So now about these notices after 31st March, sir, we understand because of that ordinance and the law relaxation, that law, it can be issued, but all conditions are not satisfied. And as that 4th March notification, if you see, only
Sir.
under specified circumstances only it
Sir.
can be reopened.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
So but in Bombay High Court, when DR was arguing in that one of the case, she said,
Padiwala Sahab wala case, MAD
yeah,
clause.
yes, sir, yes, sir. They said these notices are under the old law. So as you said rightly, first of all, without completing the cycle, they cannot do. And because all conditions are not satisfied, so what do you say on these notices, sir?
Sir, that is what I was complaining humbly, and Ashok bhai was listening. कि साहब इसमें तो आपको व्यक्तिगत न्याय के लिए हाई कोर्ट की शरण में जाना पड़ेगा, मतलब इंडिविजुअल जस्टिस के लिए आपको कानून की संविधान की शरण में और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल कोर्ट के पास जाना पड़ेगा.
Yes.
But this is painful to me.
These notices are not valid. No, that means.
Sir, how they see? अभी तो उनको पहले ये तो बताना है कि साहब हमारा नया लॉ कब चला है और कब बंद हुआ है. मेरे को आप इतना बताइए शर्मा जी, don't treat me as Kapil Goel. Tell me when new law started and when new law was kept in abeyance. I will be.
Yeah. How can there be two parallel laws? Yeah.
Sir, this is something which all our enigma, our obfuscation, all our senses are abstrused, and we are not knowing how it is happening.
Yeah.
You say that new law is open, you say old law is open. Which law? See, and how you make this choice of the law which you have to apply against a subject. I am reading this book nowadays. Where is this book gone? I'm sorry. Some honorable tribunal member, sir, recommended me this book, sir. I will show that book. Yes, this is the book. And I will adore, Mehta sahab, this is the book of Mr. Wade. The name of the book is Administrative Law, 11th edition by Wade and Forsyth. It's a British author, Wade and Forsyth. What a book it is, sir, on administrative law, 11th edition. This book discusses how these administrative powers and all these people are doing. I believe 90% of their actions are invalid if one genuinely reads this book. And I'm telling you, this is a leading commentary which Supreme Court has 1,000 times cited in their order, our Supreme Court. I see judgment of Justice Bobde when he has referred this book, sir, Wade and Forsyth on administrative law. So it applies to my cases of 148, sir. I'm sorry. Because they are all ultra virus, they are all without jurisdiction, they are all void, they are all nullity, whatever name you gave them. But they are Mehta sahab, but it is time. See, as a student of income tax law, I find everything has its own, what do you say, ecosystem and time cycle and prarabdh in our shastras, na prarabdh. So ये प्रारब्ध के हिसाब से ही चल रहा है सर. अभी क्या करेंगे सर? अभी तो क्या करेंगे सर? यही इससे ज्यादा मैं नहीं कह पाता सर.
Sir, how much you read this, so many books and so many. I really admire, sir. Hats off to you. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. See, sir, when some participant told me, say, sir has discussed 68 issues, so let him discuss NRA, and therefore that request was made. and you are good enough to discuss that, I can say thesis on section 68.
It was
Once
still
again,
it was still an abridged version, sir.
nah, okay, sir. So it was just a trailer. Movie was not shown.
No, no, no.
Uh,
I want to discuss sometime on corporate veil. These people have now started lifting corporate veil in every second case. They don't know how to lift the veil. Datar Sahab has told them in the book they cannot lift the corporate veil in every case in which their fancies likes them.
yes.
Corporate veil is lifted like this, Sharma ji, ki as if for the revenue corporate structure has no value.
Yeah.
Sorry, it should be veil should be lifted in exceptional cases only, sir. In deserving cases only. It cannot be matter of a routine and every second case it is done.